It is 6:30. We will call our committee the whole meeting to order. And before we welcome our crack engineering team up to the podium, we'll have a couple of things on the agenda that one will require, ask for consideration and tabling. That'll be Resolution 10-B. Our city attorney, the wording, the way that the youth committee is spelled out in our handbook, it's all adults, but not the kids yet. And we don't have, our adult that had been on there has moved out of the city, thus not being able to be on the committee anymore, because you have to be within the city to be on the committee. So I think just consideration for this evening is to table, and there'll be a more appropriate time in the next month or so here to do that. So that is that. So it would be just tabling that. So as we come to that, if consideration be given for a motion and support, just to table that. And part of the reason too, the elevating or changing the name to it is pre-pandemic. This was one of the big things I had wanted to do, and wanted to elevate the status. We've had really struggled, as Commissioner DeShane would know, getting students on here, and we've talked about even doing a scholarship thing. Some different things at different times, and we'll figure this out before we get there. And the COVID hit us not more than a couple weeks later, so everything got sidetracked. And then we had a good year plus with mask and different way the kids were able to do external events and different. So it's just timing starting to line up now for the coming fall. Start appointing kids to this, high school students, I should say, in the late springtime. So we can get a jump start over the summer with them. So and it's more just to elevate that piece. And then on resolution 10-E, there are three clarifications on there. One is on the traffic. We have our former police chief, Greg Long, on there. We need to have Keith Mankel on there. Our clerk has already updated that. The second is on the Community Engagement Committee. Our current chairperson is not listed on there. That's Stephanie Kolakowski. So we're going to add her on there. And then the DDA, Tom Bart stepped down in the fall, and Scott Zoko stepped on, was appointed, and this body actually had appointed Scott at that point in time. And I would just offer up maybe shade to myself and to the clerk so we don't get yelled at from the other six up here. Those were all about the same time in that September-October time frame, and we had a lot going on around here. So it missed getting them on the working list, so that's how it got missed. So clear with everybody? Does it make sense? Okay. All right. I haven't disrupted anything else. So with that, we'll turn this over to our engineering department. Rachel, I believe you're going to kick us off. All right. And we're going to learn about ordinances and floodplains.
Yes, very, very exciting. So, I'm here to talk about our flood ordinance, chapter 42, and this just deals with floods in the city and how we deal with those. And the reason this chapter is being updated is because FEMA has updated our flood insurance rate maps, which is what we commonly just call the flood map. So these are properties that are impacted by the 100-year flood as defined by FEMA. And so in order to adopt the new maps, we just need to update chapter 42 that specifically calls them out. Now these maps haven't been updated since the 80s, so this has been a long time coming to have these maps updated. And for the most part, the map hasn't changed much since the 80s, except for an area around Remembrance and Leonard. All of the property owners that are in any of the floodplains were notified. Last year, we had a very big effort contacting all of them so that they were aware, especially if their property was not formerly in a floodplain, but now is. And we didn't receive any feedback from that, but everybody has been made aware of those changes. And then by adopting these maps officially, the residents in our city who live in the floodplain will continue to qualify for the National Flood Insurance Program. And so in the update of that chapter, there was a few other things that had to be updated to comply with federal standards. And so we worked with our city attorney as well as the state floodplain manager to take a whole look at that chapter to make sure everything was up to what the feds require and that we would continue to qualify. So other than adopting the maps, just the few other things that changed, the regulatory flood is what we called it before. It's now the base flood. It's just a definition change, but it still means 100-year flood. We will specifically call out Appendix G of the Michigan Building Code. That's something that we already follow. If somebody wants to build something in a floodplain that would increase the flooding in that area, we can't grant them a variance. If somebody wants to put a development in a floodway, they have to prove that they're not going to negatively impact other property owners by impeding more water and raising that floodplain elevation. The one thing that could impact us, if somebody wants to change an existing structure in a floodplain, and it's a substantial improvement, which it took a little bit for us to make sure we had that definition down. That's a repair or development that's greater than 50% of the market value of that structure. They need to build everything at least a foot above that floodplain elevation, including their basement. And then just a couple of minor changes. Mobile home parks can't be built within a floodway. We don't have anything like that planned. And then we previously had allowed innovative flood-proofing methods, and those are not allowed at all now. Everything just has to follow that 1 foot above the base flood elevation. So that was a lot. Does anybody have any questions?
Commissioners? Okay, questions first. Commissioner Burke, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. Rachel, thanks again. We went through this at Ordinance Committee at some length. You know, we don't have a huge flood problem here in Walker, so it's nice. Think about other communities where it's really a huge deal. I've lived in places where you cannot get insurance if you have the house that you have where you have it. And so it is not, it is a bit of a judgment for us to decide to stay in compliance so that people can qualify for insurance. That judgment does come with a bit of a cost. The cost is, if you want to do something new or do a substantial improvement, as the term says in here, your basement has to be a foot above the floodplain. Your entire basement, not the top of the basement, the entire basement, right? So you can imagine somebody who comes in going forward who wants to do some kind of improvement to their property, and they might have a pretty high bar to climb to get where they want to go. We talked about this at some length. We agree it's probably worth that potential cost for somebody, because we probably don't have a lot of people who live in this plain. We have parks and things mostly in the plain. But it is not a zero impact thing to implement. There will be that person in the future who comes and says, oh, I want to do this big improvement. You can't, because you're not going to be qualified, and you'll then, I think, disqualify the city or whatever you do if we were to approve it. So we would not approve it. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward document. I don't think there were any really points of contention or concern, unless I missed something.
So all new construction would have to adhere to that?
In the floodplain, yes, and substantial improvements.
Okay.
So like Nick Finks is not, it's in Comstock Park, but if you were like down there and you had this old building that's been there for a long time, you want to do some major addition,
Late
you
1800s,
might get told no.
Right.
Because you're in the floodplain.
Yeah, I think where we talked about a potential problem is over on Turner, if one of those businesses wanted to expand, but I suspect theoretically if a business were to try to make some type of major expansion, I don't know, I have ideas about ways that could be achieved, but I don't want to get into a bunch of legal stuff right now.
Well, at that point, are they coming to the ZBA with a variance request?
I have questions about whether or not you could do a variance
Even if
request
that's
to
even
achieve
legal.
that.
I was told by the state floodplain manager that we would not be able to grant a variance
That-
if they can't show that their development isn't going to negatively impact surrounding people, and it has to follow that 1 foot rule, and it can't negatively impact their neighbors. But yeah, we can't just we can't grant a variance if they haven't shown that they're not gonna adhere by both of those things.
Sure.
And the city really can't go rogue with this either, because there's also a state floodplain permit. So they'd have to get permits from the state as well, and the bar is pretty high for those studies. So it's not like you go spend $500, it's, you go spend $20,000 or $50,000 to prove it.
And then we have a material impact on the people from an insurance perspective as well, because we're not in compliance, you know, so that there's a whole domino effect with this as well. But I think Commissioner Burke brings up a good point, not knowing how many are impacted down there off of Turner, but that there could be some potentials. We're just gonna have to understand that it's been a problematic area almost since that has been built down there, and will be a problematic area probably for the rest of our lives, so. We just happen to be understanding of that. We probably, I think from a ZBA perspective, as long as we've got the notes in here, but this has got to be one of the things, we'll just have to keep an eye out in the coming year, should something come up. Because there is change now and then down there, that if somebody to come in front of the ZBA, that there's something there that triggers that, hey, we can't do this. So maybe just an alertness on our part from a city perspective.
We did go through and pull all of this data from GIS and put it into our building software. So every parcel that is potentially in a floodplain has been
identified in there.
flagged. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I mean, there's a lot of properties that only a portion of them are in the floodplain, so they're fine. But if they apply for a building permit, it's something that we will check each time.
Perfect. Oh, good, you put my mind at ease then. All right. Might be overthinking it, but we don't want to have one slip through the crack on accident, so. Other comments or questions for Rachel or Scott? All right, anything else either one of you have for us? Sounds like the open house went well. Good turnout.
Very well, very well.
Okay. All right. What was the open house for? The Kenning Remembrance intersection, and I just, the nonsense in social media, you start to wear thin on it over time of the, I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole here, but.
I know.
The keyboard,
social
I'm gonna call it
media.
out, the keyboard warriors. You got nothing positive to say, but then you don't show up to be involved in government, so that's their own fault. So, cool, thank you very much. We're good for the night. We should be fine at 7 o'clock, so have a good night, both of you.
Thanks a lot.
Anything else on our list before we go to comments? All right, I'm gonna turn to our city manager. If you're, welcome back, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know if, Gary, you wanted to talk about the book a little bit while we're talking the official,
Sure.
elected officials handbook. That's in the packet. That's kind of an annual update we do of that. We've all had an opportunity to look at that. There's just some minor changes in there, so I don't know if there's any questions on that, but it's pretty straightforward. And after tonight's meeting, when we take some action on renaming some of these, we'll have to go back and adjust that next year. But I think the way it is now is good, unless there's any questions on the handbook.
I mean, there were, our city attorney has gone through this, so this is those changes, the strikeouts, as you've seen them in there of what the changes are. We'll continue to review this on an annual basis, so that we really are in compliance with it. And that's part of where the youth committee piece had come up, reviewing it just this afternoon, so we'll change that down the road. So that's, any questions on the handbook?
So, and assuming you adopt that tonight as part of the consent agenda, then Shannon will kind of accept all the strike all the changes in there, and then, so which will adjust the page numbering a little bit, so then she'll update the table of contents and print new ones for everybody.
Okay.
Should be good.
Cool, questions, all good? Would you mind checking with Chief a second while we're doing our thing on what he wants to do there with it? Thank you. And then, as far as the 2 new appointments on there, one of the things I have been wanting to do, particularly on the ZBA, is the one that jumped out to me the most was, we do not have a legal representation on the ZBA. And as we know, a zoning board decision is final unless overturned by a proper judicial authority, of which this governing body is not one of those. So we really need to stay out of harm's way, to do right for our residents, to do right for our business owners. I felt it was best to have legal representation on there. was thinking on my short list of attorneys that I knew in the city, we do have a county chair that is a long time standing attorney, but obviously there would more than likely be some conflicts along the way there, not just of his time, but then also possibly with the job role. So the gentleman I'm recommending here is a longtime resident in the first ward of the city. Have known him for some decades, and is it's somebody with 30 plus years legal experience that I'm a lot more comfortable with somebody that has that wisdom up there and is very structured on we are making legal decisions. And I want to remind, I said that governing body of the ZBA is, I want to thank Bob Mars for his 40 plus years of service to the city. As Bob is stepping down and Jeff will be replacing, not as chair, but replacing on the board, one of the things is the job of the ZBA is to say no. The applicant's job is to convince them to say yes. I think it's one of those things that with a legal mind, I feel more comfortable there. And then the second person for the Planning Commission, that you have the applicant, most of us are familiar with Dan Harlan. And with the Planning Commission, I believe that it's very important that we have real estate, construction, development, or architect engineering background. I'm starting to develop a list for this role for potential applicants of people where these really, we keep these as non-political appointments. These are meant to be qualified people on these committees, because the planning and ZBA are two biggies, obviously, from a residential perspective. So, any questions on either one of those two?
No, I thought they were very solid resumes.
Okay, good, thank you. Board appointments, not much change. The one new big one is the mobility and infrastructure. And I think even before we get to our city manager, I want to give Commissioner Gilbert really the credit for this one, because this is an idea that he'd floated past recently, and we've been talking about kind of that need with all the growth and development and the things that we have going on. There's definitely a need for a subcommittee, an advisory committee, to be able to help this board out, doing some vetting, some decision making, so that when it gets to Monday night, that heavy lifting has been done. All the other committees are working like that, and I'm really excited about this. So I don't know if you want to share some background with what you're thinking.
No, I think you said it really well. There's just a lot that goes into the decision-making process when we get a lot of these items, like our capital improvement plan, the paving plan every year. We talk a lot about the sidewalk plan. There's a lot of infrastructure improvements where decisions need to be made, and I don't think that's the role of this body to go through that finer process in refining what comes here for a decision. But I think there is a role for members of this elected body to have some type of oversight on how that list is developed and how we come to those decisions that we can then make the up or down, yes or no vote on. So I think it's a step in the right direction for us. It's something that I think we have sorely needed, and I look forward to us getting into the work.
And our city attorney has gone through, helped draft the language for the committee. I like the fact that we have people with some subject matter expertise, more than me, both of you two do, and I'm comfortable with that, helping lead that charge. So that will be a new standing committee then, and that's on the list. So any questions, discussion around that one? Okay, we talked about the youth committee situation, so look for a motion to table that and support, please, when we get to that. And then and if you would state why until a future date, to make sure that we have this structured right. And then the police fire subcommittee, it's one of these things that just there's much more of a broad overreaching umbrella right now with public safety. Rarely are we doing emergency planning or anything with one versus the other. I mean, this is meant to be one. So just part of that, again, is just maybe cleaning this up a little bit and elevating the image of what that ad hoc committee is doing for us. So that is that on the agenda. And I would like to ask for a motion. I think I have spoke with everyone over time of having Commissioner Gilbert stay on as Mayor Pro Tem. So there's any discussion on said item. Okay, so it'll be motion support. We covered the 3 board and committee changes, so I'll tee that up at the 7 o'clock meeting on resolution 10-E. And then Rachel just covered number 11 for us, so. That is that. Now we have 10 minutes. We'll slide down to our city manager.
So-
Again, welcome back.
Thank you.
Second
So question on the Mobility and Infrastructure Standing Committee. Do you have members appointing to that?
Yes, they are on that list.
I didn't see those.
I didn't see it either.
I did not see them in the inclusion on the resolution, but
Oh, yes, we talked about this. Yes, thank you. We did have this conversation. Yes.
I only ask that because we're starting our budget process at staff level. I'll be meeting with the department heads the next couple of weeks, and I'm assuming the perfect place for this committee, once we get our requests in for staff of going through here and finance committee, probably at the beginning of February, we're gonna need to have a meeting or two, sometime before the 15th, before we have to have a draft of the, first draft of the budget. So maybe by next meeting, I think is fine. We're not gonna have the information back, so I think we could form the committee tonight, make the appointments at the next meeting, I think would suffice, and it would still fit the time frame.
Yeah, I did have on the sheet, but we did talk, our clerk and I did talk about the, needed to create the committee first, for that. And before I forget, I know that the two particularly, Commissioners Gilbert, experience with the state capitol, with roads and infrastructure funding and the strategies behind that. But then definitely Commissioner Heisinger was the other that I had on the list as the vice chair for that because of our MDOT work, and I can very quickly share with everybody, I had a informal discussion with our regional head of MDOT. Can I say this out loud? I think I can. Cats, oh, okay, all right, so maybe something to be coming on the Fruit Ridge Bridge, so there's that. So we're,
It's delayed 2 months.
it's delayed 2 months right now. Leave it at that. So, how's that? So, all right, that is good. I'm done talking before I take us in rough waters. Thank you.
Nope, I'm good, really, just budget, we're starting to get in the season, so I'll be digging into that pretty heavily in the next few weeks.
And then we went down and had a nice meeting with the Parks Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
If I'll let you share any background with it. Gorgeous building, by the way.
Yeah, down in Millennium Park, we met with their staff, and they have the new building there off of Butterworth, so we checked that building out a little bit, but had some good discussion with them, just kind of sharing contact information. They have a lot of new staff members down there. Roger Sabine is gone, there's a lot of replacements and new administration at the county, so just kind of putting heads together and just sharing plans, and they have couple plans for some improvements down at Millennium Park over the next couple of years. New entrance off of Maynard Butterworth area. They want to put a new sign entrance there over the next year or two. But probably the most exciting thing I saw, if you're into biking, trail biking, they're planning on adding about 4 or 5 miles of trail bike trails on Johnson Park, where they have a drive that goes through the woods there. They have some CARES Act money they have to spend by July 1st. So they are going gung-ho on hopefully getting that completed. So if you know anybody that's in the mountain biking, there's going to be a nice place nearby with some really cool terrain. I was talking to Sergeant Frank today, and he was pretty pumped up about it. So
That's a big system, big
Yeah.
trail system through there.
yeah, and it sounds like they like I said, they have to spend the money by July 1 this year. So,
His daughter's gonna love that.
yeah, I know, and close by. So. No, good meeting though. Good to get to know the folks at Millennium. You know, we've always known them, but it was good to see them and have them share their
When
plans.
was Roger there? He was there
Oh,
a year.
25 years
Down
probably.
with him at Walker Festival when you were trying to buy.
Yeah. So, no, good meeting. So, that's all I have. Just trying to get back in the swing of things.
All right.
I was bored at home.
Yes. Welcome back. All right, Commissioner Burke?
Mayor, you know, we've gone through a personnel, the elected officials handbook a couple of times. I think it's ready, other than you mentioned with the youth committee changes. Do we want to hold the handbook now to make those
I
changes?
think we can go we approved the handbook because it's the youth committee right now.
Okay,
So that stays status quo for right now.
okay.
And then we will probably in the next month or so kind of have it come back renamed as the Mayor's Youth Commission, along with an adult appointment or two to that committee so that it's not just on Commissioner DeShane's and our HR director's shoulders to herd all the cats, so.
That's a lot of work.
Okay.
I've got actually a very solid foundation for a program, and it's one that I copied that Commissioner Chase and I have gone through at Michigan State, the political leadership program. It just teaches them a lot of things. They're going to be able to get to be able to experience a lot of things that it's going to be probably a mini tour of the dispatch center. You know, like we'll see next Monday night. Those types of things that they're going to be able to get to experience that we haven't done before. So there's going to be definitely a different feel to this one.
Okay, that's it, thanks.
Yep, good question, thank you. Commissioner Shane, welcome back as well.
Thank you. All I have is Happy New Year. I'm just catching up on everything at work and here, so.
Thank you for bringing the warm weather back too.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Commissioner Groders, thank you again for the incredible amount of work done at Station 3, getting that ready for things. So that's, wow. Well, good job organizing.
They're very excited.
Yep.
Senior neighbors are very
Yep.
excited about having that.
Yep. Commissioner Babcock.
Just a reminder, the Parks and Rec Committee is meeting tomorrow night to go over the master plan. Would love your comments. And then they'll be at the next meeting to discuss with Frank as well, to go through fine tooth comb on that. I did attend the open house today. There was a pretty good turnout. Everyone was receptive, so that was good to hear. Most of them came in expecting a roundabout and were excited. The peanut about apparently is what
Don't
they.
trust social media. Yeah.
So, yeah, reporter from MLive was here and said he was expecting a little bit more and didn't get it, so that's a good thing.
Awesome. All right. Madam Clerk? I don't think I have anything. Am I missing anything? So I think we're good on stuff. Oh, tour next Monday. It is Martin Luther King Day, so City Hall is closed. The county is not, I mean, they have, are definitely extended us, so it will actually be at 5:30. I will email the details on where to meet, but at basically the front entrance to the Sheriff's Department. So right off of Ball Street at 5:30. Is anybody not able to make it next Monday? Madam Clerk, you're more than welcome to join us. That'll be a tour, figure about an hour. And I think it's good when you've not been in there before, Captain Veen, not been in there before, it's when you get to see how it's set up, and we made that change 20 years ago? Yeah, 20 years ago, to centralize that, and it makes sense where it's at right now. So it'll be a good chance for you to get to see it and understand the why behind and how we partner with them at. So I think with that, we will stand adjourned for about a minute and a half. And I'm going to All right, welcome everyone. Visitors, welcome to the city of Walker. Love seeing the faces here. So it is customary at the city of Walker, we open with invocation, and then I'll invite the group stand and join us for Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll, however you feel comfortable, bow your heads for a moment. And before I jump into invocation for this evening, I'd like just us all thank our public safety personnel, and really by the grace of God that our residents made it through a pretty intense fire this afternoon up at the Green Ridge Apartments. Heavenly Father, we thank you this evening and always for having this privilege of serving our city. We pray that as we discuss our agenda and set policies for our city, we will always put the people's interest above our own. Remind us, Father, that we are in this position not to be served, but to serve the public. We humbly ask your blessings on those who have made that decision to serve, especially our military, fire, and police. Many who are here tonight and will go into harm's way to uphold what is right and just. We give thanks for the blessings you have bestowed upon us in your great name. Amen. I'd like to invite everybody, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. If I could ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Carey,
Present.
Commissioner Burke,
Present?
Commissioner DeShane,
Present?
Commissioner Chase,
Present.
Commissioner Groders,
Present.
Commissioner Babcock,
Present.
Commissioner Gilbert.
Present.
Outstanding. We have the band all together up here. Next on the list is the approval of minutes from the December 19, 2022 City Commission meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on said minutes? I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a
Approve the
motion.
minutes.
I'll support.
Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Chase, support. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Chief, the floor is yours.
First of all, I want to thank you for giving us this time to recognize our officers. The pinning of the police badge will be a career highlight as you progress through this noble profession. But remember, the badge is only a symbol of what our profession stands for. The protectors of those in need, the helpless, and the defenseless. We will treat all people with respect, dignity, passion, in the way that you would want to be treated. As a Walker police officer, you will be held to a higher standard than those you will be serving. Not because you're any better than them, but for what the police badge represents. Honor, dignity, integrity, and justice. Please remember to never let your ego or personal agenda dictate your character. It is a privilege to wear the badge, and that privilege can also be taken away. The badge is much more than a symbol of your authority as a peace officer. It will be your personal commitment to serve with the traits previously mentioned, and as a reminder to stay humble, grounded, and dedicated to serving all people with this awesome profession. At this time, please raise your right hand. As a police officer, you are to act as an official representative of our city and are required and trusted to work within the law. Your powers and duties as a police officer are conferred upon you by the state of Michigan. Your fundamental duties include serving the community, protecting the innocent, and keeping the peace. The expectations that you are to shall perform all these duties impartially, without favor or affection or ill will, and without regard to status of sex, race, political belief, treated equally with courtesy, consideration, and dignity. Do you swear to perform these duties? Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to call up Danielle. So all these officers come to us from the Grand Rapids Community College. So Officer James Zepp was hired September 2021 and just finished his probationary period with us. James grew up in the Cleveland, Ohio area, attended Central Michigan University, where he met his wonderful wife, Danielle. When Jim is not at work, he enjoys playing video games, fishing, and spending time with his wife and son, Micah. At this time, Danielle, you may pin his badge.
That was perfect.
Normal? Officer Yuri Juarez was hired in August of last year and just finished the field training program. Yuri grew up in Grand Rapids and is the first of his family to ever go on to further his education, which he's very proud of. Yuri's also bilingual and has already been a great asset on many scenes that he's been on. In his spare time, he enjoys playing soccer. Yuri's badge will be pinned by his mother, Norma. So Officer Brady Brown was hired in August, same time Yuri was, last year, and just finished the field training program. Brady grew up in the Sparta area and comes from a large family of law enforcement officers. Brady's father was back in the early 90s. Howard now serves, and he's still working. So Troy now serves the residents of East Grand Rapids. Brady enjoys fishing, hunting, and boating on his days off. Troy, it's your privilege to pin your son. So, step on over here real quick, gentlemen. Close to me. So, these are the 3 new hires for the Walker Police Department. Congratulations, guys. Thank you. Mayor?
Welcome. It's customary, we have done this for decades. We invite you to come up around the commission dais up here. Want to shake hands, congratulate you. A lot of the commissioners have not met you yet, and it'd be our honor to be able to do that, and welcome to the city officially. So, if you wouldn't mind, Brady, if you'll lead them around there, please. Right around, there you go.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
You guys are good. You guys are good. Yep. Next, Sergeant Robin Maley with his wife Carrie and daughter Addie. So tonight, this is extra special because we can participate in the official welcome of our new officers into the law enforcement career. But it's also fun to recognize an officer with numerous years of experience in this profession. As he was promoted in October of 2021. I first apologize to Sergeant Maley for missing it. Back when he was promoted, there was a lot going on, and that falls on us. So, Rob Maley started part-time in 1999 after graduating from Grand Valley State University. He was hired full-time in June of 2000. After a short stint on the road, he was assigned to the Vice in 2002 to 2005. And then in 2006, he came back on the road and became the driving instructor, which he still does today. So, Robin's been a field training officer with us, and he was voted Officer of the Year in 2016. 2017, Robin became a corporal, and then was promoted in 2021 to sergeant. Over the years, Robin has had numerous department commendations and citations. Being promoted to the rank of sergeant is probably the most critical assignment within the organization, as this assignment has the responsibility and opportunity to lead, mentor, and direct and mold our staff to be a professional organization our community deserves and expects. Sergeant Maley has embraced this opportunity and flourished in this supervisory role that he has taken on. It's now my pleasure to have his wife Carrie and daughter Eddie pin his badge. You guys want to meet Robin too?
Absolutely, Walk
Okay.
of Fame. Come on up, Sergeant.
There might be a couple that don't know. The new ones. Jason Russo? I'm gonna throw one quick one in here, sorry. I'll get you his information if you need it. So Jason Russo is our new accreditation assistant that just came on board with us in December. Jason comes to us after a 25-year career at the Kent County Sheriff's Department. While working for the Sheriff's Department, Jason served as a corrections deputy, road patrol deputy, court security, and major case detective. When Jason's not at work, he enjoys spending time with his wife Lisa and enjoys fishing. Jason also served in the United States Marine Corps. So I just wanted to let you meet Jason since he's kind of on the back side of everything. So Jason Russo. So again, I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to come in and do this pinning. I think it means a lot to our officers and gives you guys the opportunity to meet them also. So thank you again, taking this time during your busy schedule. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So for our visitors here, I know you're all thrilled to sit through a city commission meeting of mind-numbing material at times. You are welcome to stay or go. You won't insult us, but as you go to leave, thank you for the sacrifices you make as family and friends, and your whether it's a family member or a friend serving the city. So thank you very much. It's not anything any one of us up here takes lightly, and we can't pretend to understand the sacrifices you go through, but we're here for support, and this is a commission that is very supportive of our law enforcement department in the city of Walker. So thank you for coming. You're welcome to stay. Otherwise, you're welcome to also slide out if you want. So. All right. It's all good. Yeah, I don't know about you, but all right. Next on our list is public comment on any agenda items. All right. Next on the list is consent agenda. We have two items. One is the expenditures in the amount of $1,049,073.56. The second is the elected officials handbook review and revisions that we discussed at the 6:30 committee of the whole meeting. If there are no questions on either item, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support.
So moved.
Support.
Commissioner Groders, Commissioner Babcock. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We are past there. Next on the list is Resolution 23-653, establishing a Mobility and Infrastructure Standing Committee. We discussed this at our 6:30 committee, the whole meeting. I'll reopen this back up. Is there any discussion on said committee? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support to create establish the Mobility and Infrastructure Standing Committee.
So moved.
Support?
Commissioner Gilbert, Commissioner DeShane. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We are passed. Next on the list, we also discussed at our 6:30 meeting is the renaming of the Youth Committee to the Mayor's Youth Commission. We want to clean up a little bit of that contract language, so recommendation is to table that right now if there's no further discussion on that.
I will make a motion to table to ensure compliance with local statutes and regulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilbert.
Support.
Commissioner Burke. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Next is the renaming of the Police and Fire Subcommittee to the Public Safety Committee. We also discussed that at the 6:30 committee of the whole meeting. Is there any other discussion on said resolution? Seeing none, I take a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Chase?
I'll support.
Commissioner DeShane? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passed. Next is Resolution 23-656, the appointment of Commissioner Stephen Gilbert as Mayor Pro Tem. Any other discussion on our mayor appointment? I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
Motion to approve Resolution 23656, appointment of Commissioner Stephen Gilbert as Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Commissioner Burke.
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Groders. And should we remind Commissioner Gilbert that he's only a heartbeat away from this, right? Okay. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We are good there. Next is the Resolution 23-657 for Board and Committee Appointments Resolution. As in our packet, there are three clarifications I would like to call out, and then if we are fine with that, then if somebody would make a motion to approve and support, please. The first is the replacement on the Traffic Committee is Chief Greg Long should be Chief Keith Manko. The second is the Community Engagement Committee is Stephanie Kolakowski, is not listed on there. Evidently, she's currently the chairperson. And on the Downtown Development Authority, the retirement back in September of Tom Bart was replaced by Scott Zoko, which the City Commission approved since, and I believe in October. So with those three changes, exchanging the two police chiefs, retired for current, community engagement, adding one, and that's missing, omitted, and then the second is the change of Bart to Zoko. Make sense? Okay, did I miss anything? All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support for Resolution 23-657 for Board and Committee appointments with the three changes noted.
So moved.
Commissioner Gilbert,
Support.
Commissioner Chase. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We are all set. Next on the list is ordinances. We have one ordinance 23-669, the first reading of amendments to Chapter 42 for the flood ordinance updates. We received a presentation at 6:30 from Rachel Nagorson and Scott Connors from our engineering department. Rachel did a great job explaining the implications of our decision and the policy we're setting with the ordinance change. Is there any other discussion on said ordinance? Seeing none, this will be for the first reading. I'll entertain a motion for approval and support.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Commissioner DeShane, Commissioner Burke in support. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We are good. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? I'm gonna go back around the horn. I'll start, Madam Clerk. Anything on your end? Commissioner Gilbert? Hey, how cool is this? Before I pass the thing this way, this is pretty cool. Commissioner Shane? Commissioner Burke? City
Yes.
Manager? Yeah.
Just
If you
a reminder.
take a little time off and look what happens.
Just
So,
a reminder of those that are on the Emergency Planning Committee, we have a meeting scheduled prior to our next city commission meeting on the 23rd, so 4 o'clock.
Correct, yes.
So just a
Thank you.
reminder of that one. Thank you.
I will be out of state most of next week on business travel, I think Tuesday through Friday. So should be good there. I don't think we're missing anything there. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Commissioner Groders,
Support.
Commissioner Chase, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, we stand adjourned. Thank you.